Bonsoir, mesdames, messieurs. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This month, we learned a lot about our beautiful, beautiful planet. This month, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change published a special report. It was based on 6,000 scientific studies. They responded to 42,000 comments, one by one. The policy summary was approved by governments, line by line. They'd been asked in 2015 to answer the question, what would the world look like if global warming reached 1.5 degrees centigrade, above pre-industrial levels? That's 1850 to 1900. They were asked to describe a world at 2 degrees centigrade, and they were asked to describe the pathways we could take to limit our global warming to 1.5, to not go beyond 1.5. Now, what temperature of global warming are we at right now? The answer is 1 degree. Where are we headed? The answer is, by the end of the century, if we do nothing, 3 at least. And we're already seeing glimpses of what the future will hold. Hurricanes, forest fires in the Arctic Circle, drought in major cities like Cape Town, and floods. These are just a select few pictures from this year alone. In that context, the IPCC report was sobering reading. The difference that half a degree makes is very big. At 1.5 degrees centigrade of global warming, we may have some coral reefs left to be able to regenerate. At 2 degrees, we've virtually wiped it out. At 1.5 degrees, 6% of insects will lose half their natural habitat. At 2 degrees, that is 3 times as bad. At 1 degree centigrade, every 100 years, we would see an Arctic summer without sea ice. At 2 degrees, that will happen every 10 years. And at 2 degrees, about 420 million people more will see record temperatures on a regular basis. Now, on a positive note, the authors of this report, who are drawn from all over the world, said that we still have an opportunity to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. They described 4 different pathways, but they said it will take a fundamental change in our systems. It will take change of the type that we have not seen in human history in terms of scale and speed. We are now on a sprint to 2020. In 2020, what will happen? It's the 5th anniversary of the Paris Accord. And in 2020, every country is asked to come back together and present a more ambitious national plan. The sum of those plans needs to put us back on track. So, we're facing climate breakdown on one hand, which is frankly terrifying. We're facing a global sprint on the other hand, which is utterly daunting. And so it's worth using the moment of this report to ask ourselves, how do we sprint to 2020? How do we run this race together? First, we have to commit to the race. Now, I am not going to tell you anything new in this next section, but it's worth repeating. In the West, we need to buy less meat, we need to source locally, we need to buy seasonally, and we need to throw away less. We need to recycle, we need to reuse. We need to use more renewable energies and insulate our homes. And we need to walk, take the bus, take the train, and if you really need to take the plane, you offset. It's like buckling your seatbelt. We're not alone, though. Last year, 2017, the World Economic Forum did a study of 30,000 people under the age of 30 in 187 countries and territories around the world. Climate change was their biggest concern. And if you asked them, would you change the way you behave, would you change your lifestyle to protect the environment? The answer was a resounding yes. And that's a good thing because we need to go beyond the individual. We need to use our voice, our wallet, our vote. We need to be employees. We need to be consumers. We need to be citizens because we need to get others to commit too. We need to ask for a commitment to valuing carbon and carbon pricing. We need to commit to disclosure and reporting. We need to commit to investments into our infrastructure, buildings, our cities, our energy and transport systems. And we need to ask for investment in our natural infrastructure that underpins our entire economy. And this works. Right now, a fifth of the global Fortune 500 companies have signed up to science-based targets. All those companies are thinking about the future. And this is Hilda Heine. She is the president of the Marshall Islands. The Marshall Islands, at 1.5 degrees centigrade, they will evacuate their entire population. She is also the head of a group of 48 countries which are climate vulnerable, and they'll be meeting virtually next month to review the IPCC report findings. She has written a plan for her country which brings them to carbon neutrality by 2050. And she said, if a nation as small and as isolated as mine can commit to this pathway, then so can others. Imagine if in 2020, a group of the big emitters, supported by their populations, committed together to change. We also need to gear up. This is about using technology to help us. Now, there's some good news here. Renewable energies are a great success story. 10 years ago, fossil fuels grabbed the majority of investment. Over the past 6 years, investment in renewable energies like wind and solar has outstripped investment in fossil fuels. In 2017, renewable energies were the fastest growing energy source for the planet. The thing is, we need that type of investment, that type of innovation and drive beyond renewable energy. We need it in industry, we need it in agriculture, we need it in mobility. The good news, there are already points of light. This month, there was the first commercial flight across the Atlantic fueled by recycled industrial gases from steelmaking. That's the CEO of the New Zealand-founded company you can see on the screen. This company takes yeast and brews it for 2 weeks, and it turns into leather, which can be used instead of leveraging our animals. You can see the chief creative officer there, and the leather that they produce was used in a beautiful exhibit at MoMA. This company uses plants to create fake meat. Now, how will that taste? I promise you, my husband, who is French, said that this is delicious. And it was also, you can see the chef who served 100 meals using this at the annual meeting in Davos. It really is remarkable. It's also available now in restaurants in 3,000 places in the US. So this isn't just something brewing in a lab somewhere. This is a commercialized innovation. An example from finance, this company pays you in a type of Bitcoin for ocean recyclable plastics. So if we do this right, collectively, these innovations and these changes in different industries could build to a new type of economy, a circular economy, one which is not in conflict with the planet. But it's not enough just to gear up, we also have to connect. If you're going on a race, you need your team with you when you hit a wall. It's also known that most great lasting social movements start with small cells of people who think towards a common goal, and then they connect. We're already seeing this happening. On a small level, these are young people connected with the forum. In one case in Dhaka, Bangladesh, they've planted 10,000 trees in 27 different places across South Asia, linking with local schools. This group in San Salvador collected 500 pounds of plastic in collaboration with a local NGO. And this group in Amsterdam created their own Fashion Revolution Week, linking with 13 places around the world, virtually with local experts and clothes swaps and all sorts of incredible things. But then we get to a bigger scale. Cities. By 2050, as you know, 70% of us will live in cities. There are some cities now which have a GDP greater than countries. This year, 70 large cities committed to carbon neutrality by 2025. That represents 425 million people. It includes Accra, it includes Mexico City, it includes Tokyo, it includes Los Angeles, where in 2016, emissions dropped by 11% whilst their economy grew. Copenhagen took it even further. They say, no, we're going to reach carbon neutrality by 2025, in 7 years. And on a bigger scale still, what we're starting to see is unlikely and unusual, non-traditional groups of people coming together. This is a sample of just a few of the logos of some of these to give you a snapshot. We Mean Business gathers together 700 businesses. The Oil and Gas Climate Initiative represents 30% of the world's oil production. Chevron and Exxon just joined with new leadership, and they've set targets for methane for the group. The Climate Action Network brings together 1,300 NGOs from around the world to collaborate on climate action. And the Investors Agenda was formed this year, 400 investors. Their collective assets is a third bigger than the GDP of the United States. So we are starting to see a movement. But then we have to imagine the finishing line. And this is going to be different for different people. For some, it'll be that the world is healthier. We'll have averted about 700,000 premature deaths from air pollution alone. For some, this will be that the world is more efficient. It'll be cleaner. For some, it'll be that we're in harmony with nature. For some, it'll be that we are more resilient and strong. It's estimated that there will be 26 trillion in economic benefit from climate action and 65 million more green jobs. But what I think is true is that in this age of artificial intelligence, really it is the ambition, it's the solidarity, it's the creativity of humans that will shine through. And if we commit, if we gear up, if we join up, and if we keep our imagination and our hope, then we can win this race, and perhaps we and our children will never see a world that's beyond 1.5. Thank you.